Come on, Livingston. We gotta go on and on and on. Together we can make it. We gotta go on and on and on. Come on, Livingston.
Knocks it through. Mullen bursting into the box. Josh Mullen.
Together we can make it.
Mullen's ball across, it's turned in! It's Pittman who's got it! Livingston leads!
Road is long.
Can they get the ball back in? O'Brien.
Lead! And Livingston have the lead!
Man, can score.
If we march together.
The full-time whistle blows and David Hayes celebrates! And the Livingston fans join in exultation.
Come on, Livingston.
Livingston have the lead against Rangers, and they are certainly rising to a few occasions on their return to the top flight in Scotland.
Come on, Livingston. We gotta go.
Hello and welcome back to Talk Livi, the podcast dedicated to everything Livingston Football Club and Scottish football. My name is Angus and today I'm joined by Euan. Euan, it's been a while. How are you doing?
I'm good, mate. I'm very good. Despite, well, obviously get on to talk about it, the disappointment of last night's result against Inverness and what was quite an eventful game. But you had a busy weekend. You've got some incredible tan lines on the go as well, which you were displaying to me last night with a pint before the game. How'd you get on at the weekend with the GS boys?
Yeah, good weekend with the lads away. A very eye-opening experience, my first time kind of away with a whole bunch of characters, and a lot of them, lived up to the reputations that were described to me early on. There was missing bags, missing phones, people passing out on the bus, people not making out on the nights out. There was some football played as well, not too much though as well, but that's not really as important. Beat a couple English teams who were taking it far too seriously as well. So yeah, there's not much more you can ask for. Aye, the guys are great and, made me feel very welcome the first time being away with them. So, aye, WorldNet was a success and looking forward to next year already. Yeah, that means that sadly we couldn't be at any of the games, but, maybe that was a blessing in disguise by the looks of things.
Well, you missed a win. All I'm going to say is you turn back up at the Tony Mac and we get beat. I mean, there's no coincidence there, Angus. Let's be honest. I think that's a sign for you to stay away, mate.
Well, as always, you can find this episode as well as all of our others on your preferred podcast streaming site. Just search for Talk Livi, so follow us or subscribe to ensure that you don't miss another episode.
We'll start the episode off by discussing our opening League Cup games against Albion Rovers and Inverness, with the Lions having a mixed bag of results.
Next up, the Lions will head north looking to get their League Cup campaign back on track against League One champions Cove Rangers.
The Lions started their competitive campaign against League Two side Albion Rovers as they got their League Cup campaign off to a winning start. Angus, I know you were away, but from the little snippets that you have seen of the game and the bits and pieces that you've heard as well, what's kind of your overriding feeling regarding it?
It just largely seems to be, two kind of different teams that were playing essentially. You look at that first hour, it looked as if, we're cruising comfortably. I mean, we scored the first goal of, the Scottish football campaign and everything looks to be bright. Pittman gets a kind of classic Scott Pittman goal, and we soon make it 2-0. After half-time, it's free, and, you're looking for, to show that kind of Premiership quality, properly see the game out and not have too many issues, particularly against a team like, no offence to Albion Rovers, who are, divisions lower than us. But unfortunately, some of those defensive mistakes that were apparent in a particular pre-season match, against Morton seem to, be coming through again. We just look completely shaky, and although we've came away with a victory, I think it takes a lot of the shine off of, taking the 3 points essentially. It's because you're looking at it and being like, oof, we've given up 2 goals against a team like that. What's it going to be like, playing, teams of our caliber, teams in our league? I mean, we've got Rangers the first game of the season. If we're going to defend like that and give away cheap goals like that, Rangers are going to take, 6 off of us or that if we're not careful, in all honesty. And that's what the most concerning thing will be for the supporters at this moment. But I guess at the same time, you've got to look at that first hour performance and, and see, what that was for what it was. Getting down the lines, putting some good balls in. And yeah, like following up chances, keeping the game alive in the opposition's box. And we got 3 goals basically from that as well. So in a way, that is very encouraging to see. But yeah, it's hard to very much separate giving up 2 goals. Obviously, you'll have a much better idea than me as you'll see in the full game as a whole. I hear that there was technical issues that meant, most of the supporters couldn't watch through the pay-per-view either. So you'll be one of the lucky few who, will have a much broader understanding of the game than the rest of us.
Yeah, I'd love to say one of the lucky few. Clifton Hill's not exactly luxurious at the best of times. It's
character.
Character is we've got the nice way of describing Clifton Hill. It's got a bit of character about it. But no, I think, as you said, first hour, I thought it was as professional a performance as you could ask for when you're playing a lower league side away from home. Don't get me wrong, that pitch was probably the best I've seen Clifton Hill's pitch, but it's still quite dry and bobbly, so it could be difficult to get the ball moving across it at times, but I think we handled it pretty well. Got the goal early doors, as you said. It was the first goal in the Scottish football calendar this year. The ball by Shinnie, it seems to be a little bit of a pattern, that inside channel, playing the ball in that inside channel for the likes of Penrice or Devlin on the other side. And we got a lot of joy out of that, but it's a great initial ball by Shinnie. Good cross by Penners, who I thought was probably our best player on the day. I thought he had an excellent game and caused Albion Rovers no end of problems. But it's a great cross, and Pitts arriving late in the box to nod at home. And off to a great start. Again, Penners plays a big part in the second goal, coming inside, forcing a save off the keeper, and Josh Mullins coming in off the line to follow it in and make it 4 goals in a couple of games for him. So that'll do his confidence the world of good, I'm sure, coming back into the side. And as I say, we were very much in control without maybe testing their keeper too often. And I think that's a theme I'll probably go along with most of our games so far this season, taking the pre-season games into account. I think we're showing really good patterns of play. You can see it's worked on, but it's just maybe that final ball's just a little bit lacking at times, and we're not working goalkeepers enough. So I think that's maybe an overriding feeling going through all the games. But we got the third again, that same ball again, that inside channel. Devlin's got in. Pitts has had a shot block, but he's played a cute little ball into Anderson, and he's managed to swivel and fire it low past the keeper. Bruce's first couple of touches coming off the bench at half time. And the goals are really disappointing to lose because we were in such control of the game, with Albion Rovers genuinely creating nothing of note. Ivans had nothing to do until the goal, and when he was called into action, he's let the ball slip from the free kick, and it's followed in by the boy Sunkur, and they've then managed to get a second. For those who weren't able to watch it, the best way I can describe it is go back to our championship season with an Alan Lithgow long throw. It's flicked on and somebody's nodded it in or volleyed it in, and that's exactly what happened. It's a long throw flicked on, and Michael Payton's managed to volley it into the roof of the net. But I still think we were very professional in terms of seeing the game out. I think we kept a hold of the ball very well, and Bruce Anderson probably should have made it 4-2. He had a good chance 1v1. Keeper has made a decent save, but he had the opportunity to maybe square it. If he lifts it, maybe scores. But overall, for an hour, more than happy with the performance in terms of how professional we were. But those 2 goals really took the shine off it. I was going back in the car, and there wasn't a lot of atmosphere in the car on the way home with myself and my dad. Just that took the shine off it, of what had been a pretty solid performance on the road at what could be a difficult venue to go and play at times. So yes, at the end of the day, it's very early stages of the season. I'm not hitting any panic buttons as such yet. I was very similar last year. Bear in mind that's what third game really under the players' belts, and there's still players getting up to fitness, trying to get a bit of sharpness in their legs. So I'm not overly concerned as of yet, but there's things for the gaffer, I'm sure, which we'll go on to talk about with the Inverness game as well. But there was some decent performances in there. There were also a few debuts for players. Scott Bitsindu started at centre back. Dylan Bambula came on at half time. We had Ismail Goncalves making his competitive debut as well. Angus, from the games that you've seen, what's been your thoughts on some of the new boys that have come in?
Too soon to tell for me. Nothing has happened just yet that's getting me, massively excited. But at the same time, missed that game against Albion Rovers. Was there last night for the Inverness match, so it was at the Morton games. I can't say right now that there's anyone who's really properly standing out. I think that's a fair assessment, considering we're only, 3-4 games into, the pre-season kind of calendar. Too soon for me to be able to pinpoint anybody who I'm thinking is going to be, the kind of put my money on to be, the signing of the season at this early stage. But, hopefully we'll see more as, fitness builds up, more games come under the belt, more chemistry with the team, more used to the surroundings, whatever. But fingers crossed that, that some of these players will pull through. And I mean, by the looks of things, it doesn't look as if they're going to be the last of the recruits. So let's hope there's a couple more players coming in who can really improve to the squad in a number of positions.
That's certainly something that the gaffer's touched on in his last couple of his post-match interviews. He's mentioned that he's going to dip into the market again, and he's planning, well, certainly after the Albion Rovers game, 7 to 10 days, he was expecting a bit of movement, maybe a couple coming in, a couple going out. So it'll be interesting to see what happens and whereabouts he's looking to strengthen. But we'll get onto the Inverness game. We were obviously both at it, so we can probably chat a little bit more in depth about that game. But it wasn't half eventful in the end, was it?
Yeah, eventful is how we'll describe it. Starting to, I guess, don't want to push the panic button too early, but I think that's a bit of a concerning performance, in my opinion. Giving away 2 goals against Albion Rovers, the warning signs were there. Playing a championship side who are decent top-end championship side who will be probably, pushing for promotion next season. I don't think we looked any better than them at this stage as well, which I think is quite worrying. We should be possibly a wee bit more up to scratch, I would say, to take on like a side like this. Plenty of the ball the first half, I would say, but we just don't seem to really, when the onus is on us to, go and play, it's a bit too slow. There's so many times we're just passing the ball about and, keeping possession. I don't want the team to, they ever just force it for the sake of it. But you can see the kind of the sort of patterns that they're trying to play, but it's nowhere near kind of quick enough. A couple of times, they're passing around the back line. A couple of times they could easily pass, centre half to centre half, but they're going centre half to goalkeeper to then centre half, which, takes up so much time and allows, Inverness to get back into it. Inverness, I would say, in that first half, despite not having too much of the ball, had, the better chances. They had a header that was flicked onto the bar. I can't mind the player who was running through on goal, but he forced a decent save from Striek, and then obviously they had the goal, which is very, very poor to concede from our point of view as well. We went from looking like we had a glorified chance ourselves. Goncalves, for some reason, decides not to shoot when the goal's right in front of him, on the edge of the box. Elects to try and pass to Bahambula, who's nowhere near the up in line with him. The ball just pitters out to nothing. Inverness play a couple of quick passes, one ball over the top into our half, and suddenly it's a 2v2 situation. It was even 2v1 at one point, and Kinkar had to properly sprint back to get into the position. Cross comes in, and he can't do anything about it, and Inverness take the lead with the warning signs had already been there. Going into the second half, you're expecting a wee bit of a better performance, and it didn't seem to be too much of a difference, in all honesty. Bruce Anderson came on, put himself about, but he was isolated for the most part. And then obviously we have the flashpoint of the game that kind of cements what the result would end up being. And again, some sloppy defending, some poor anticipation. Striek comes out to kick the ball, ends up giving Samuels a high knee that Triple H would be proud of. Outside of the box, complete red card. Don't think you can have any claims about it. I mean, that photo that you see attached to the match report from our good pal Callum Carson's West Lothian Courier, that just shows you how how brutal that was. Goalkeepers get a lot of protection, but there's no protecting that one, is there, Euan?
Yeah, I mean, to touch on the first half, I think first 25 minutes, I think we played some really, really good stuff, to be honest. I thought we were totally in control of the game first 25 minutes. But it comes back to that theme that we probably didn't test their keeper enough for all the good possession and all the good areas we got into. I think Nubley did really well on the right-hand side, created an opportunity for Goncalves, which he's fired straight at Ridgers. Probably should do better and burst the net if you're looking at your centre forward in that position. But as you say, I think despite us maybe dominating the ball for large spells of the first half, I agree. I think Inverness probably created the better chances. As you mentioned, Robbie Dees had a header. Livy Lincoln there, his uncle Paul Dees used to play for the club. Strykes tipped it onto the bar. And the boy who I thought was man of the match was the boy Daniel Mackay on the left-hand side for Inverness. I think he signed for Hibs last summer from Inverness and didn't quite go to plan his move, but he's gone back up there on loan and he's certainly got a lot of potential, bags of ability on the ball, but he forced a save from Max. We almost saw a goal of the season from our man Nicky Devlin. Be rude not to mention his effort from inside his own half, which Ridgers has actually pulled off a marvellous save from to tip it onto the crossbar. But you can't really class that as a clear-cut opportunity, can you? But the goal's disappointing. As you say, Goncalves has had an opportunity and it was begging for him on his strong foot, on his right foot, looking at that far post. It had opened up brilliantly for him. He's taken the wrong option. And one thing I'll credit Inverness on the counter-attack, he caused us all sorts of problems throughout the game, I thought, on the counter-attack. And it's Mackay who's broke down the left-hand side. I think Kincar's initially done really well to get back in and track the run of Samuels, but then at the last couple of yards before he meets the ball, Samuels, I think Kincar's allowed him to get across the front of him again. So he's done well, but then at the very last second, he's kind of let Samuel slip him and he's tapped it in at the back post. And yeah, it was frustrating first half because we dominated the ball, and again, our patterns of play are obvious to see as a fan, but we just aren't testing goalkeepers enough. And we'll get on to, as you mentioned, the red card. I listened to Davy's comments about it, and yes, if Max has maybe played the ball initially, but his follow throughs, if we look at a famous challenge in Livingston FC folklore, which is Jason Talbot, I always said that Jason plays the ball first, but there's no dispute it's probably a red card in the end, given the follow through, and it's dangerous play. That's exactly why Max has been sent off. It's dangerous play. His follow through is dangerous. Davey was talking a lot about the build up to the incident, taking a quick free kick, but I think there's a deal of blame in various areas, maybe not taking the free kick too quick when we're not set. I think the long ball, Penrice has an opportunity to probably deal with it as well. And then Max, if Max goes with his head, I don't think there's an issue there. I think it's bizarre that he's decided to go with his knee or his feet, and when the ball's at that height, I think he's just bringing trouble upon us by doing that. And then obviously he's sent off, which I think is the right decision. I thought it was a red card at the time, and even listening to kind of comments back, I still think it's a red. But Connor pulled off a good save from the free kick that followed that up from Robbie Harper, and we changed our shape, and I think Inverness took advantage when we were trying to tweak our shape. We went to almost a 3-4-2, and Pitts went onto the right-hand side, and Mackay showing him a clean pair of heels on the left-hand side, got into the near post area, and he's just fired it across goal. And I think it's Penners that it's come off and then clipped the bar and in. So he's a bit unlucky in that sense, but Pitts is probably playing out of position in that point just until we can make a couple of subs. But we did manage to get ourselves back into the game, and could have nicked a minimum a point and even taken it to penalties in the end. Jason Holt scored a terrific goal. Good play by Devlin on the right-hand side. He's rolled it into the edge of the box. Great little turn by Holt on the edge of the box, left foot into the corner, and we're back in the game. And then we get the penalty. And were you confident when Holt was stepping up, Angus?
Considering his penalty against Aberdeen, yes, slightly. I think he's taken 2 penalties for us, one at Parkhead, one at Pittodrie. So it was relatively so. The run-up, though, as soon as he ran up, it seemed very, very staggered and stuttery. I don't know how close you were to it. It seemed a bit, and then it just as soon as he was about to hit the ball, you just see him leaning back, and you're like, oh no! And it just went well over the bar, and it's just one of the moments that he'll know himself, and that's just complete misjudgment or like just completely got the technique wrong. If he puts it down the middle, he scores. If he does get it on target and where he was aiming for, like he sent Ridgers the wrong way, he has obviously just put too much backlift onto it. It just sums up the kind of evening, doesn't it? Poor goals conceded, sending off, chance to nick it at the end, chance to get what would probably be undeserved, to be fair, I would say. I know we had an awful lot of the ball, but for us to have taken something from that, I don't think we could take anything from Inverness. I think they were very worthy of the 3 points and a very good away performance from themselves. It's no ideal, is it, Euan?
I mean, when Holt's stepping up for the penalty, his run up for the penalty was identical to his one at Pittodrie, in that he had that little staggered step and he was again leaning back. Obviously, his one at Pittodrie clipped the underside of the bar, and I just get the fear anytime somebody goes high with a penalty. I think you're just inviting trouble upon yourself personally. But Holte, I saw a few comments on why isn't your striker taking the penalty XYZ online after the game. Holte's obviously a designated penalty taker. I think he took over responsibility for penalties after Io missed a couple last season against Ross County and then the shootout against Hearts. So I don't think it's a surprise that Holte's stepping up and taking it. And I think, you can talk about your striker hitting the penalty. I think a lot to do with penalties is composure, technique. It's not always about, he scores lots of goals. Just to use as an example, I think Morelos has a pretty shocking penalty record, but he scores barrel loads of goals for Rangers. So I think a lot of it's down to the composure aspect. But Holte stepped up and, as you say, he's had that staggered step and then he's leaning back. It's only going one place, it's going high. And it's unfortunate because I don't want to pin anything on Holte in that situation because he had such a good season last year. But it was such a massive opportunity. I think it was a clear penalty, by the way, on Bitsindu. He's being held by Oakley in the build-up from the corner. So I don't think there's any dispute in terms of the penalty, but it's very, very disappointing that we had an opportunity to, when we've not maybe been at our best, to get a point, potentially two, if we were to then go and win on penalties, which would have put us in, let's be honest, would have put us in the driving seat for finishing top of the group. Now we're really need to go and win these two games and hope elsewhere in the other groups that we finish as one of the best placed runners up, I think. But frustrating in a lot of sense because I think over the piece, I think in terms of possession, territory, pinning Inverness in for large periods of game, I think we did do that. But I think in terms of our shape, when we did lose the ball, I think we were caught out quite a bit. And Inverness on the break looked very, very threatening. As I say, boy Daniel Lakai was, for me, the best player in the park, and I was actually delighted when they took him off because he was causing us no end of problems down that left-hand side throughout the game. So, I agree with you in terms of the opportunities created in the game. I think Inverness definitely deserved, and if we produced a performance like that on the road, we'd be absolutely delighted. So I think Inverness were worthy of the win in the end, but it's, as I put on our Twitter afterwards, it's an opportunity missed in the end because you get a penalty with a few minutes to go when you've not been quite at it to rescue a point, and you're down to 10 men as well. It is a little bit disappointing how it's panned out in the end, but hopefully we can get back on track when we head up to Cove for another really tricky game in the League Cup.
Next up, the Lions travel north looking to get themselves back on track against League One champions Cove Rangers. Euan, it's going to be a tough game. How do you see it going?
Yeah, you're right. It's going to be a tough game. And when I was putting the script together and getting some info on Cove this morning, the more I looked into it, the more I was becoming a bit wary of this game, to be honest. Just looking at, obviously, as you mentioned, they're League One champions. They were the top scorers in the league. They had the best defensive record in the league, scored 73, conceded 32, which inevitably should mean that you finish top of a division, doesn't it, if you've got the best of both? And they only lost 3 league games last year. And they're a team that are full of confidence and on the up, aren't they? So going to their place, I think it's going to be an incredibly difficult game. Me and Bruni touched on it last week. I think our entire group was quite a difficult one. And probably as hard a group as you could have got on paper if you looked at the draw. But they are under a new manager, so maybe that might play into our favour a little bit. Paul Hartley went down to Hartlepool, and Jim McIntyre's first job in a couple of years after leaving Dundee, and he got sacked there when he got relegated from the Premiership. So maybe a little bit of transition you're hoping for could maybe play in our favour. I noticed they won 2-1, had to come from behind to beat Albion Rovers at Clifton Hill there. So they're off to a decent start in terms of their League Cup campaign. But just looking at their squad, they're a team that are full of recognised names in Scottish football terms. Big threat up tops, Mitch Medginson, who scored 18 goals, was top scorer in League One last year. But there, as I say, likes of Shea Logan, Mark Reynolds, Fraser Fivey, Ian Vigers, Rory McAllister. Everyone going through the divisions with Livingston knows who Rory McAllister is and is good for a goal here or there. And a name for Livy fans, ex-Livy player Morgan Neal's on the books there as well. So they're full of very experienced pros that have played at a good level in their career. So I don't doubt that they'll have a bit of know-how about them, and they'll know all the dark arts and all those sort of things. So I think it's going to be a very, very tricky game for us, but it's all about maybe going in front in the game. I think if we were to get in front, first 20 minutes or so and get our stamp on it, I think that would give us a big advantage for the remainder of the game in terms of holding onto the ball. Because I think we've shown at spells in games this season, our ball retention has been pretty good. So I think we might be able to take advantage in that. But by no means am I going into this game totally confident that we'll get a result, because I think it's a very, very difficult game on paper. And Cove will fancy themselves. I've seen a couple of their pre-season results. They ran St Johnstone close at McDermott Park. I think they lost 3-2. So it's a very, very difficult game, and given our frailties, I would put it at the back so far since we've come back from pre-season, I'm sure they'll fancy their chances, especially at home against us.
I had the chance to see Cove, I think, a couple of times last season. The most notable one was against Hibs. They played them, I think it was in the Scottish Cup. And although this was, Sean Maloney's Hibs, they weren't an awful great team. They went to Easter Road and were terrific. Very, very well organised. A lot of key players, I think it's Harry Milne really showing. I think he's away now to Partick Thistle. So it's basically seeing, what of that team from last season, is still a part of the plans, as they look to go into the Championship. As you said, new manager as well, as there new ideas in there and whatnot. But their rise has been, truly remarkable. They've done things, very well. And they do play some nice football as well. You talk about that there, most goals. So, yeah, we're definitely going to be wary. And, Championship opposition upset us last night. There's no reason why it couldn't happen again from a very, very solid outfit. I mean, you've mentioned those players there who can cause us issues, especially in forward positions when we're obviously not looking at our best at the moment. So, yeah, I think this is one that, when the group was drawn, I think looking at it, it was, a potential slip up, because, they are a team with an ever-growing reputation. They're improving each year. It'll be very interesting to see how they get on in the Championship this season. But yeah, it's not one that we can take lightly, and it's one that, we're going to have to be at the top of our game for, because if we have any mistakes, we're going to get punished yet again. We've seen it in, basically every game that we've played so far this season. There's no reason why that can't happen again there. But as you say, we've got to be confident again in our own abilities. We are a Premiership side. These players are a good set of players. We should be able to go away to a team like this and, come away with a victory. There is plenty of talent within our squad that, makes me confident that we can still do that. I mean, it's not all doom and gloom. We've just got to be at it. We've just got to want it as much as they will, because, they're going to come out of the traps and, try and put a good performance on in their home pitch. They'll obviously be looking at us now as, their potential competitors for second place as well. So I think it's looking up to be, quite a tasty affair. But yeah, we've just got to go and handle our business as we should. Going on to, the starting 11, we've kind of swapped, a couple of names from last night from the game against Albion Rovers. I don't know if I should ask, who would you play, or who do you expect to play? I guess who would you play is probably the more interesting one, just to see your thoughts on, how to approach this game.
Well, I'll tell you one for certain. I think Ivan will start in goals.
Oh, okay.
That's forced
We're not
upon us.
getting
So
emergency, out of retirement for Gary Malley. No?
give the people what they want, Angus. Give the people what they want. Nah, I mean that's a certainty. I can't sit on the fence with that one. So Ivan will obviously come in between the sticks. It'll be interesting to see who he maybe goes with at centre half. I think Fitzy's obviously one of the first names on the team sheet, given his form from last year, but he's rotated between Bitsindu and Kankar in the recent games. So it'll be interesting to see what he does there. I think midfield, we looked probably slightly better in the middle of the park when Andrew Shinnie came on. I think he offered a little bit of creativity and got on the ball and was very confident on the ball when he came on. So that might be something against a team that's pretty well organised, as you mentioned, having that little bit more creative spark in there to help us maybe try and open them up. Davey typically always likes to refresh the wide areas. I could see Josh Mullen coming in, having been rested on Tuesday night against Inverness, and again, Josh's quality in terms of his delivery could be crucial for us. So, and does he give Goncalves another run out to get precious minutes under his belt, or does he play Bruce from the start? Again, I think we're trying to manage Bruce a little bit because he's probably further behind the other players in terms of his pre-season, given that he was out for the last month, 6 weeks of the season. So he's probably even further behind. Another option's Omiyonga. Obviously, I think there was a bit of an issue in terms of visa paperwork, which is why he was listed as a trialist in the pre-season games. But I think Stefan again is probably a little bit behind. I think he met up with the group a little bit later because he was getting married, so he had his wedding and things like that. So maybe an opportunity to give Stefan a few minutes as well and rotate the midfielders. So I think there's plenty of options in there. We have plenty of options throughout the squad, but I think Davey will probably rotate a few players. I think listening to his post-match, he said 4 players got pass marks is what he gave. So he obviously wasn't, despite a few positive comments in terms of how we dominated the ball against Inverness, he obviously wasn't happy with the overall performance of the players that were on the park. So I can definitely see at least 4 changes as a minimum coming into the side, and I think it will be maybe those sort of players who will be looking to get the nod and start the game. But what about yourself, Angus? Is there anyone in particular you'd like to see get an opportunity?
Yeah, one that you mentioned just there. I would like to see Andrew Shinnie from the start. I think for Shinnie's career at Livingston so far, we've only kind of really seen him in an advanced position, which probably isn't his natural place. A couple of times we've seen him now in centre mid. I think he's showing, the kind of quality that he really does have. Very good on the ball, very good at retaining it, and he gets stuck in as well. So yeah, I would like to see him, getting involved there. Whether that's playing kind of next to like a Holt or that, or maybe even playing that slightly advanced one like where Pittman usually would be. I think he's more deserving of trying out there. And as you said, like in a game like this, you need that wee bit more creativity. Obviously, we've lambasted the kind of the final ball in like situations in these couple of games. Perhaps Shinnie's that kind of player, who can thread those passes through, can get us into those kind of dangerous areas. You already said about how successful the passes that he's played into like the kind of wide areas has been as well. I think last night when he came on, he showed that as well. So yeah, Shinnie for me would definitely be one of the players I'd like to see more from. I think the centre half option's a very interesting one as well. Obviously Kinkar and Bitsindu. I'm guessing is Ayo injured or something at the moment?
He wasn't on the bench. I'm not 100% sure what's happening with Ayo, to be totally honest with you, Angus. I'm none the wiser on that one, so I've just kind of ruled Ayo out, given he's not been featuring. But I'm sure if he was available, there's an opportunity that he might get a run out. As I mentioned, Kinkar's had 90 minutes there, but Sindhu's had 90 minutes at centre back as well. Albeit I think Sindhu going forward as a more defensive midfielder rather than a centre back. But yeah, that's another potential option depending on what his availability is for the weekend.
Yeah, and as for the striker situation, I guess it's basically who do you try and fancy giving more minutes to at this moment? Do you try and build up Goncalves so he's got more fitness under his belt, or do you try and recapture some of that time that Bruce Anderson's missed? Based off of performance wise, I'd probably go with Bruce, to be fair. But although you're looking at the he's just came back from an injury. You don't want to be pushing it too soon. Maybe the best thing is, starting with the likes of Conchalves and seeing how it goes for the first hour. If things are going well, we maybe can bring Anderson on when, things are a wee bit more comfortable or whatnot, like they did against Albion Rovers. But yeah, I think the main thing though, regardless of, who's on the pitch, is they just got to show a lot more desire to get on the ball and a lot more quality as well when we're, on the ball, because if we play like we did against Inverness, it's not going to be pretty viewing, in all honesty. It could go down a very similar route, but fingers crossed, let's be optimistic and hope that the right changes will be made, the personnel will come up in trumps, and we'll get back to winning ways.
Here's hoping, and I think if I'm right in saying, I believe it would be the case, but I think this will be our first trip up to Cove, so it'll be another ground ticked off my list watching Livingston at. So quite happy to do that. I was hoping we got Kelty away as well to tick that one off, because that's another one in the lower divisions I've not been to. So, but we'll go predictions, Angus. Quite a tough one to call. What you thinking?
I'll be positive, and I'm gonna go for a 2-0 win away from home.
I fancy Cove to score. I'm going to go 2-1 Livy. I think we'll do enough and we'll get the win. But I fancy Cove to cause us a few problems. As I mentioned, they've got a very good record last year in terms of the attacking output, and they've got plenty of players on the park that can chip in with goals, as I mentioned as well. So, but I think we'll have enough quality to get ourselves over the line and get what will be quite a vital 3 points in terms of trying to get out our group. And here's hoping we can get the job done. That's it for this week's episode of Talk Livi. Thanks again to every single one of you for tuning in, week out. If you can, we'd love to hear your feedback. Either leave us a review on iTunes or simply message us on Twitter, Facebook or Instagram.
As Euan said, we're on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Search Talk Livi to find us. You'll find all the links to our weekly episodes on there as well. You can also find all our episodes, including this one, on all good podcast streaming sites, including iTunes and Spotify. We're also on YouTube, so don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If none of those options suit you, all you have to do is head to our website, talklivipodcast.libsyn.com, where you'll find every single episode we've done over the last few years.
That's it for this week, and thanks again to all our listeners for tuning in. Let's hope for probably a slightly better week following the Lothian's finest football team, and hope to see you all up at Cove at the weekend.
Livingston, oh Livingston, the Albion Lions grow. Livingston, oh Livingston, we realize our vision. Livingston, oh Livingston, into the